Hi, my name is Mary and I am making a series of videos on our YouTube channel to discuss something that I am very excited about, which is advocacy for trisomy 18. Our daughter Rose has the diagnosis of trisomy 18. I was given the risk of her diagnosis at 12 weeks gestation. I think a pretty big question I get asked often is, did you know? Did you know before she was born? And I did. I knew early, and I knew by 17 weeks, amniocentesis. I knew that she had full trisomy 18 risk, very high. With 2 blood tests and an amniocentesis, I was preparing at that point, 17 weeks preparing, that I would be having a daughter with trisomy 18. If you are new to the diagnosis, and you may have just heard this diagnosis for your own child, then I just want to say welcome. I want to share briefly that the first weeks of getting her diagnosis, we really only knew the tragic pieces. We used that time to try to digest all the information and just really truly believe that this could actually be a genetic disorder that our child had. I think a big part of me continued throughout my pregnancy to hope and wish it would not be the case, that this would have been a big mistake. And I spent a good amount of time hoping for that. I'm getting farther and farther along in my pregnancy. What happened is, in researching the diagnosis and looking online, I began to see on social media that there were children living with rare trisomy. And this did a shift in me. I think of our diagnosis, and I think of my range of emotions, and I think of how heartbroken, sad, distraught, desperate we were to learn that people got false positives and things like that. I do think of this moment that was like a pivot. And for me, it was glorious. So I'll talk about that pivot for a minute. When I saw a little, and the little girl was in a beauty pageant, and I just, without even thinking, I began messaging her mom. You know, how old is your daughter? My baby. What did you do? How was her birth? Any tips? Things like that. So the mom came back with some very great questions. Guys want to intervene? They did not know about her daughter's diagnosis when she was pregnant. So when she was born, she immediately got NICU care. Hearing this as one of my first total evidence children living, it's anecdotal. I got to watch her life. It wasn't that a medical book told me or a website or a doctor. This was literally me seeing this little girl. And that kind of anecdotal advocacy went very, very far with me. It touched my heart, and it caused me to do this pivot. Standard of care for a rare trisomy child is often something called comfort care, or staff maybe share with medical staff, maybe share with you about interventions, but not detailed, and really in a light of, they share the interventions as almost cruel, as children being poked and prod and put on machines and they never know their family and then they die. That was like the brief exposure I was given for what medical intervention could look like. With that, seeing this little girl and then her mother's email to me was an extensive story of neonatal care. So the NICU. So something I would love to share with newly diagnosed parents is, if you're very confused on what will our baby need, what should we do, you know, what will it look like, I can't even imagine, what will this be, if you chose the route of full intervention or intervention and life-saving care when a preterm baby is born, and so a preemie will have neonatal care, so a neonatologist, a NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, put in a NICU. So not knowing she had T18 yet, put her straight to life-saving care. So with that life-saving care, she was then in a NICU getting innovative care, getting her needs met, respiratory, had the respiratory support she needed and the care she needed. From there, the mom went on to share with me their experience. And what I took from that was, okay, I want NICU for my child. I want respiratory support for my baby. And I just got my pad of paper out and I began to write. And things like access to a NICU, neonatology assess her right at birth. I just kind of would look, okay, she was life flighted somewhere, so, life transfer if needed. And I just look, and that was my pivot. That was my pivot. From there, I could never go really back.